All right, Zimbabwe is scheduled to hold elections on July the 30th.
A June survey by Afrobarometer predicted a high voter turnout of at least 85%. The survey also speculated ZANU-PF would garner 42% of the vote compared to 31% for Chamisa and the MDC. 26% of voters were still undecided. In January interview, President Emerson Mnangagwa invited international observers from bona fide formations such as the EU and the UN and the Commonwealth to send observer missions to monitor the elections. All right, joining us to discuss the run-up to and how the July 30th election may eventually pan out is our regular guest here on Afro Breakfast, Tino Mabeu. Thank you so very much, as always, for joining us. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, and thank you for having me.
Well, first, I just want to start with the story of the moment, I suppose, the big story of the moment, and maybe you can just tell me what's going on here. But there is talk about this scandal of leaked data after the ruling party sent personalized campaign messages to mobile phones. What's that about? Tell me what's going on.
Well, the biggest story of the moment regarding the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is the apparent leak of data, as you say, that we find ZANU-PF in possession of people's phone numbers. Not only people's phone numbers, but understanding where they are registered to vote, at which particular polling station, at which constituency, who is the candidate. So the candidate then has that information, sending out messages to the electorate. I would want to believe that if that information had been accessed from service providers, you would then not know particularly where the person is going to be voting from. So finding the ZANU-PF sending messages specifically word-based, constitution-based, it really smacks of something that is happening behind closed doors. We have said that the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has not acted in good faith in terms of its responsibility to make sure that the elections in Zimbabwe are free, fair, and credible. And that is not the only scandal. The second scandal of the moment is that through analysis of the recently released voters' roll, analysts have actually discovered that there are more than 250,000 duplicated names that appear on the voters' roll. So how does this work? We have got one name given to probably 2 or 3 individuals, that particular name having the same date of birth, and the only difference that you would find is a difference in one digit difference on the ID number. So what that says is that the particular names, that particular name would then carry 2 people that are registered to vote in 2 different polling stations. It's a massive rigging that is underway in Zimbabwe, and the international community and the Zimbabweans at large must know about it. It's very strange.
How was this discovered, and which party is seen to be the one guilty of potentially rigging these votes?
The biggest national security threat we have at the moment is the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission is the body that is mandated by the law to make sure that the elections are conducted in a proper manner. All the preparation to elections should be in a credible manner. But they have not done that. In any event, they have chosen to collude with ZANU-PF in trying to undermine the wishes of the people of Zimbabwe. We are not worried who wins the election, but we are saying the process that leads to somebody being elected president in the country should be free, credible, and transparent. But they've been ducking and diving, and it all on the hands of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. They are not true to their word. They are not in the spirit of the Constitution. They are here to take the people of Zimbabwe for granted, and we are not happy with that.
Now, all right, let's get to the July 30th date. Obviously, now it's been set. Is Zimbabwe at this point ready? I mean, you've mentioned now already to me, and we've spoken now about the 2 scandals, the 2 big scandals that have to be dealt with, obviously. And I guess I need to ask you what's being done to deal with this issue of breach of privacy, and then this 250,000 duplicated names. Can we then say, on the back of these problems, that Zimbabwe is ready for the elections come July the 30th? We are fast approaching that now.
We have seen it before in previous elections, that ZANU-PF and the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission have always find a way to hurry people of Zimbabwe into an election whenever they are not ready. We had ample time to prepare for elections. We had 5 years to prepare for this particular event, but they did not do that. After the proclamation of the date of elections by the president, then people started running up and down to make sure that we had the voters' roll. But they are behind time. The reason why they are behind time is because they want to stampede the people of Zimbabwe into a sham election, a shambolic election for that matter. And it's one of their tricks to make sure that as you go to the election, you are in a hurry and you cannot have time to sort out these things. We have been given, I think, the voters' roll just 2 weeks ago, and people have been analyzing it. And while we analyze it, we have got 19 days to elections. What do we do? What is the recourse? We have got a serious problem. And the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has been on record saying that only an earthquake is the one that can stop these elections from proceeding. But why? Because they know these elections are not going to be free and fair. They know that the voters' roll is in shambles. They know that the voters' roll, for that matter, was supposed to have the picture of a voter. It does not have it. The reason why it does not have it, because they've been playing around with it, obviously to benefit one particular party. And as the people of Zimbabwe, we are very angry.
Now, you know, you would have heard in our earlier story, I mentioned the fact that President Emerson Mnangagwa has called what he calls and what we call, I suppose, bona fide groups like the AU and the EU to come in and see if these elections will indeed be free and fair. What do you make of this? I mean, from what I'm hearing from you, you don't have that perception that these elections would indeed be free and fair, given all the problems that have arisen thus far leading up to the date of elections.
Yes, we know that these elections are never going to be free. They are never going to be fair. In any event, they are going to be a shameful election. But we as the people remain determined to make sure that we make the most out of it. The biggest problem that we have here is the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. It is unwilling to be transparent. You say that we have had observers. Yes, the observers, they were in Zimbabwe, and they are still in Zimbabwe. And the European Union mission that is observing elections in Zimbabwe said it is only fair that we have got transparency around the ballot paper. And the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has not done that. It had previously agreed with all players that they are going to inspect and see the process of printing of the ballot. But unfortunately, they took people there, and from a distance, they showed them that 10 meters away from here, that's where printing is happening. We do not know what they were printing. Only what we think at this particular moment is they are treating us badly, and they want to make sure that we do not have transparency around the printing of the ballot. We don't have transparency around the voters' roll. So as much as we would want it to be called a fair, credible election, it falls short of that. And the observer missions have particularly pointed out. And I want to refer to the survey that was carried by Afrobarometer, which points out to President Mnangagwa getting 42% of the vote. I would want to believe that it's not particularly possible at this current rate in time for him to garner 42% of the vote. That would be very, very fortunate of him. I would expect probably that he gets 25%, 20% in this coming election. So it's only a trick that is being put out by
What do you base that on? What do you base your prediction on?
Well, ZANU-PF is a divided party. That is number one.
Yeah.
ZANU-PF has failed to appeal to the masses. There is no sane person who is going to vote for ZANU-PF unless, otherwise, if they are familiar to the people that are currently in power. The rest of the Zimbabweans, the world over and in the country, they feel that it's enough for ZANU-PF. Hence, you see all these tricks to try and manipulate the voters' roll, to try and manipulate state media, to make sure that state media becomes a mouthpiece of ZANU-PF. And they all have bad things to say about the opposition. Those are signs indeed that ZANU-PF has no power. And if they had power and the willingness and knowing that they would win elections, there is no need to manipulate the voters' roll. There is no need to plant soldiers in the villages. There is no need to intimidate people. All those signs show us that ZANU-PF of the old is no more.
Well, you know, you say that the ZANU-PF of the old is no more, but, you know, you would remember that when former President Robert Mugabe was ousted, a lot of people said that having Mnangagwa in that position of president is much of the same. What do you say now, given the fact that it seems there is a lack of fairness, you know, leading up to the elections, which was something that we saw during the Mugabe era? Do you still believe that it's not the same ZANU-PF as you put it?
Well, there's one thing that we have got to understand. There are two approaches here. Mugabe had the iron fist approach, which made sure that every dissenting voice is silenced totally.
Yeah.
And we have got another smart dictator who says, oh, to the world, I am open for free and fair elections, let people go and march, let them spend days in the street. But the implementation of the electoral laws implementation of agreed reforms, implementation of the constitutional reforms, to the spirit and letter that he hides away from. So he's a man who comes out in the public. He's a good person who wants to make sure that Zimbabwe is going forward. But behind closed doors, he's busy manipulating the systems that lead to elections. So those are the key differences that we have between Robert Mugabe and Mnangagwa. But in any event, they are the same.
Well, still talking about Mugabe, I suppose one can never talk about Zimbabwe without talking about Mugabe. So
yes.
There have been reports emerging, and I just need you to clarify this one for us. There have been reports that link the Mugabes, including, of course, the wife of Robert Mugabe, to the MDC alliance. What can you tell us about this? Is this fake news? Some people have said this is actually just fake news.
The fake news about it is that there is an alliance between President Mugabe and Chamisa. There is no such alliance. In any event, if President Mugabe decided to vote for Chamisa, he is a Zimbabwean who has got the democratic and constitutional right to vote for anybody. So the lies that are being peddled by the state media that there has been a pact that wants to see Grace Mugabe becoming vice president, those are mere lies meant to tarnish the good image of the alliance. In any event, the people of Zimbabwe are very aware that the machinations around the name of Mugabe himself, Mnangagwa, has been trying to reach out to Mugabe several times because they understand that as much as the majority of people didn't like Mugabe, he also had popular support amongst the Zimbabweans. So he's a man who can stand up and be able to command 500,000 people, 1 million people. And ZANU-PF is trying to tap into that support. Unfortunately, Mugabe has not been willing to endorse Mnangagwa. He came out in the open and said he will never endorse a constitutional decay. And in that manner, he said Mnangagwa is an unconstitutional leader. So this is a race to try and demonize Mugabe while trying to also get some little bit of support from his supporters, and also making sure that there is no alliance. In any event, there is no alliance.
Just as we wrap up, and really this is just for my own interest, I suppose,
yes.
Some gossip I'm asking you for here, really. But what is Grace Mugabe's future really in Zimbabwe? There had been times where, she's been touted as possibly being the new, the possible new president, first female president, all of that of Zimbabwe. What is her actual, as from what you see and what you can see in Zimbabwe, what is her actual future in Zimbabwe? And what is the attitude of ordinary Zimbabweans now towards Grace Mugabe?
The people of Zimbabwe are very forgiving. We understand where Mugabe has taken us from. We understand what he has done to us. But we have said, let the old man rest. The same applies to Grace. She has been outspoken. She has done some quite bad things. She has tried to kill President Mnangagwa for that matter. But we have said, let her go and rest. We have no intention to come against her, unless otherwise in ZANU-PF, if they've got an intention to make sure that she's vilified, unfortunately, that is the feeling amongst them. But the feeling amongst Zimbabweans is that these particular people must be given time to rest. And we do not wish to see Grace Mugabe in our politics anytime soon.
Okay.
And forever.
All right. Thank you so much. Your analysis is always so very much appreciated on the show. A lot of information you've given us, and we appreciate it. No doubt we hope to have you back in the studio soon to give us an update on the situation in Zimbabwe. Thank you very much, Tino Mabeu, who's a regular analyst here talking politics in Zimbabwe. Let's take a short break. Do stay with Afro Breakfast.